Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kira, and as you can see from the title of today's video, I'm going to be testing out 10 unusual art hacks to see if they actually work and whether they're useful for adult coloring. These hacks are from all over the place: TikToks, YouTube videos, online forums, and even some of them are from my followers. So let's dive into these weird and wonderful hacks, and spoiler alert, some of these were awesome and some of them were absolute fails, so let's check them out. The first 4 hacks that we'll be testing out today all revolve around pencil blending. Blending is such a popular technique in the adult coloring community because it's one of the essential skills that you need to master, but it also can be super time consuming. That's why a lot of people are on the lookout for shortcuts to speed up the coloring process. So the first blending hack that I'm going to be trying today is blending out your watercolor pencils using an alcohol marker. Now this is the only hack that I have actually tried out before, but I did not have great results. I'll be testing out 3 different watercolor pencil brands and see if I can finally make this hack work for me. Okay, so I'm going to be testing 8 out of the 10 coloring hacks in the back of this Worlds of Wonder book by Johanna Basford, because I feel like Johanna Basford's paper is a really good medium quality paper when it comes to coloring. It's not the best, it's not the worst, and so I think it's a fair paper type to try these hacks out on. I also feel like a lot of my followers have a Johanna Basford book, so this will give you a good indication whether any of these hacks will work on this paper. The other 2 hacks in this video are going to require some separate pieces of paper and supplies, so that's why there's only 8 little boxes ruled out here. So I've picked out 3 different brands to test this hack with. I've got my cheapest one here, which is the Born watercolor pencil set from Officeworks. I then have an Artex watercolor pencil. This is number, 445. This is probably middle of the range when it comes to price and quality. And then I have my most expensive, the Derwent Inktense. This is Thistle 720. And then obviously I need my Ohuhu colorless blender pen as well. I am going to go quickly grab a scrap piece of paper so that in between each one I can remove the excess color from the tip of the Ohuhu marker, which is something you need to do if you're trying out this method. And I also want to do 2 swatches of each, so I can do 1 swatch with the Ohuhu marker and 1 with the usual water activation method. So the exact same thing has happened to me as when I last tried this hack. The alcohol marker does blend it out a bit, and perhaps maybe you would try this method if you wanted a more controlled, precise application of your watercolor pencils, but I just think you cannot beat the water activation as it's intended to be used. You'll see that I've also had some bleeding through to the other side, at least for the cheaper pencils, not so much the Derwent Inktense, but the cheaper watercolor pencils have bled through to the other side. Please let me know in the comments if you really enjoy this hack and I'm just doing it wrong somehow. The second blending hack that we're trying out today involves using nail polish remover to blend out colored pencils. There are so many household products out there that people swear by to achieve smooth blends, especially for those who can't burnish due to hand issues. One of my subscribers actually suggested baby oil, but because I didn't have any of that on hand, I figured nail polish remover was my next best option. Let's see how it goes. So the Prismacolors I'm going to be using for this test, I've got PC 208, PC 919, and PC, gosh that's hard to read, 1023. I'm first going to do just a standard blending method swatch here, and then we'll compare it against the nail polish remover. I'm just using this basic one here from our local grocery store, and this one is acetone free because I have watched Sarah Renee Clark's household blending video where she tried a whole bunch of household products to blend out her colored pencils. And the acetone-free version seemed to work better than the acetone version, so that's why I'm trying this one out here. I'm not gonna lie, I have high hopes for this one. So in case you were curious, the general science behind this hack is that nail polish remover typically contains mild solvents that can break down the wax or oil binder in pencils, making it easier to spread the pigment and create smoother, more seamless transitions. So I'm not sure what was going on with my lightest blue pencil today because it was not wanting to blend on the paper, but regardless of that, the nail polish remover worked actually really well. I think I'm always going to prefer just blending with my pencils. However, if you have hand issues and can't press hard onto the paper, the nail polish remover actually worked really well. However, I am not a fan of the smell of nail polish remover. My nose can seriously not handle it, so that's definitely something to take into consideration if you want to use this method in your coloring books. The third hack definitely caught me off guard. It's a little bit strange, a little bit unusual, and definitely one I never heard of before. A lovely subscriber suggested to me to soak cheap pencils in water for smoother blending. At first, I thought there is no way this is going to work. I figured that the wax or oil formulation in the pencils would resist the water and pretty much make them useless. But after looking into it a little bit more, I learnt that soaking the tips of your cheaper colored pencils can actually soften the pigment and the binder, making the cores behave more like watercolor pencils. So today I'm going to be testing out this hack with the cheapest set of pencils that I own, my Holy Grail Brute Funers. So I've got my Brute Funers here. I've got number 134 and 124, as well as my jar of water here. I'm not really sure how long I should soak the pencils for. I'm thinking around 20 to 30 seconds. That feels like a good amount of time for me. So I'm gonna do a standard blend up here, and then we'll try it with the pencils soaked. I quickly wanted to reiterate though that this soaking hack is really best for cheaper pencils because high quality wax or oil-based pencils just don't dissolve in water. So please don't go soaking your Prismacolors and Polychromos at home. Okay, that is super surprising. The soaking method actually did a really good job. It kind of turned it into like a watercolor pencil, just a tad, but you can really see the difference here between the soaking method and just the normal pencil by itself. This one here is a lot more pigmented. I don't know if I have the patience to soak my pencil every time I need to color with it, but perhaps if you're doing a small little illustration, a little small victory, this might be a good one to try. Let's try out the final blending hack for this video, which is blending out your pencils with a cloth. And I'm not just talking about any ordinary cloth that you find around the house. I'm talking about a cloth that you would get with a brand new pair of sunglasses, or in my case, a jewelry polishing cloth. I struggled to say that. Jewelry polishing cloth. I've kind of tried this before, but instead of using a polishing cloth, I just used my finger and it worked really well. So I'm interested to see how the polishing cloth will compare. So the Prismacolors I'm using for this test are PC931, PC994, and PC1014. I also have my little polishing cloth on hand, but I'm sure you know what's happening by now. We're just gonna do a normal pencil blend, and then we'll try blending with the polishing cloth. So the idea behind this hack is that polishing cloths are slightly abrasive and contain polishing compounds. The gentle friction softens the pigment and pushes it into the paper, which helps reduce harsh lines and creates a more even blend. So I think this hack is a little bit of a fail. Maybe if you were trying to get like a soft pastel look and didn't press as hard with the pencil initially, you could create that kind of effect. But obviously when you're like rubbing in circles with your cloth, you can't get super precise, and so the color's just gonna go everywhere, as you can see here, Maybe that'd be a good effect to try if you were trying to create like a glowing object. That might work really well. But just for everyday blending of your pencils, I'm gonna say this is gonna be a no from me. If this fifth hack works, I'm definitely going to wish I had known it sooner. In the past, I've spoken about how I've struggled to color my lead pencil sketching with acrylic markers. For example, for the background of this page, I sketched out the cloud elements with a lead pencil and then went over the top of it with some acrylic markers, and I found, especially with the lighter colored acrylic markers, you could still see the pencil marks underneath even after several layers. In the video, I did suggest that perhaps you could use a light colored pencil in the same shade of whatever acrylic marker you're going to use. However, I really do prefer sketching with a lead pencil. I just find it easier to erase the mistakes. And that's where this hack comes in. Instead of using a light colored pencil, you can actually use a kneaded eraser to lift off as much of the lead pencil as possible and leave just a super faint outline. Then you can go in with your acrylic markers or whatever your chosen medium is, and you should barely see the sketch lines underneath. So I've just got a normal pencil here. This is a Faber-Castell 3B pencil. I've got my Prismacolor kneaded eraser. And then the acrylic marker I'm going to use is from the Artex brush acrylic marker set, the 60B one. Because as I said before, it's the lighter colors that struggle to hide the sketching underneath. So I'm going to do a normal sketch up here without taking away any of the graphite with the Prismacolor kneaded eraser. And then I'll do a second one just below it using the kneaded eraser. I don't know why I was so skeptical of this hack beforehand, but this was a great hack. You can really see a difference here without the eraser versus with the eraser. The kneadable eraser was really able to lift heaps of lead off of the paper, but was still visible enough for me to sketch out with the acrylic marker over the top. If you don't have a kneaded eraser, you could even use just a really cheap eraser that doesn't erase your pencil fully, and that might work as well. But I'm definitely going to be using this method in the future when I'm adding additional elements to my backgrounds. Hack number 6 is where things are going to get a little bit more interesting. I came across this hack on the super popular art channel Kirsty Patridge Art. Seriously check it out if you haven't already, where she used a craft knife to etch and sketch different textures and details into her wax pencil art. She did emphasize that this hack works best with wax-based pencils as well as smooth paper. So I'll continue testing in Worlds of Wonder because the paper is pretty smooth and not too thin. And I'll also be using my Prismacolors because they have a mainly wax-based formulation, and we'll see how this hack works with them. So this is a hack that I am very scared to try because any sort of knife, sharp object with paper just seems like a disaster in the making for me. But we'll see how it goes. It's why we're using a test piece of paper. The combo I'm going to be using is PC 1080, PC 941, and PC 1099. And from what I've seen online, what you need to do is do lots and lots of layers. You want to have your lightest color as the bottom layer, then you're going to cover that with the medium shade, and then you can do a little bit more shading with your darkest. You'll see as I'm doing it. Also, something else to be aware of when doing this hack is to make sure you're not actually cutting into the paper with the tip, but rather scraping it on the side like that. That's how you'll avoid actually cutting the paper. I'm not sure if you can tell on camera, but I was definitely a little bit heavy-handed with the craft knife around this section here, and I think I was actually indenting the paper. I've not cut it or anything, but I think I was just scraping a little bit too hard. But I got the hang of it towards the middle here and at the end, and I think this effect is really cool. It kind of reminds me of if I was doing maybe a leopard or cheetah print. I think that could work really well for some sort of animal fur texture. I want to try it one more time, but I'm going to use a green combination because I want to create grass. So the combo I'm going to use is PC 1005, PC 911, and PC 908. Do the exact same layering method that I did before, but with flicks using my craft knife. Okay, so I absolutely hate how this looks. I think I just need to practice and experiment a little bit more. I'm not sure if it's a great technique to use to create a grassy effect, but I feel like it could be a good effect for fur and hair texture. Actually, you know what I want to do right now? I want to try this flicking motion, but with this color combo up here to see what that looks like. This one turned out so much better than this one. I think the color combination really does make a massive difference when it comes to the end result. However, before I try this in any of my coloring books, I definitely will be testing out the color combinations to make sure I get the effect that I want. All right, we're going to step away from the predominantly pencil related hacks and dive into some different mediums. For hack number 7, we're going to try applying and blending soft pastels with water. I know, I was skeptical about this one as well. The idea behind this hack is very similar to the pencil soaking hack that we tried earlier, where the water should dissolve the pigment and make it easier to blend across the paper, creating a smooth, painterly effect. It also has the potential to help set the pastels in place. So if this works, it could be a game changer. I am so intrigued to see how this turns out, so I'm going to try 2 different methods for this. First, I'm going to try just going directly from the pastel, so using a wet brush, picking it up from the pastel and then applying it to the page. And then the second method I want to try is actually applying the pastel directly to the paper and then using a damp brush to blend it out from there. I'm going to say this twice more in the next 30 seconds, but I really am sorry you have to witness my horrendous painting skills here. I wasn't even consciously thinking about what I was painting, so try your best to just focus on the hack results rather than the somewhat flower-shaped objects that I've created on the page. Now, my painting skills with the brush are absolutely horrendous. I hate what I've drawn here on the page, but the hack itself does definitely work. It just felt like I was playing with watercolors in a way, because it's obviously not super opaque. There is some translucency to it. If you're pulling the pigment straight from the pastel, it is a lot more subtler, but if you're applying the pigment straight onto the page, you are going to get more vibrancy, more saturation. I just need a tutorial. I need someone to teach me how to paint things with a brush because I am hopeless. I'm so sorry you had to witness my questionable painting skills. Do not worry, I am embarrassed enough for the both of us. My strengths definitely lie more in the pencil marker world, but anyway, moving on. Now we're bringing out the watercolors, and this hack involves creating some sort of detail or texture with a wax or oil-based medium and then painting over the top of it with watercolors. I promise it's not as difficult as it sounds. So I've got my white Prismacolor here, I've got my white oil pastel. I think what I'm gonna do is just try to draw in some clouds and then I'll go over the top with my watercolors to create a sort of gradient sky effect. I'm really curious to see how this differs with the Prismacolor against the oil pastel. So this particular technique is actually called a resist effect, where the wax or oil repels the watercolor. I also forgot to press record initially, which is why you don't see me initially lay down the watercolor across the Prismacolor section. Oh, classic Kira. This actually turned out really well. I'm really happy with this. You can obviously tell that the white Prismacolor doesn't create as strong of a contrast against the watercolor, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it just depends on what look you're going for. If you're looking for more subtle clouds in the background, definitely use the Prismacolor, but if you want stronger, more obvious clouds, the oil pastel is the way to go. The problem with using the Prismacolor though was that I could not see it on the paper whatsoever, so I think I would be more inclined to use the oil pastel in the future. I'd also be really curious to use different colored wax pencils or oil pastels as well to see what that does. Hack number 9 is a really fun one that I've seen around but I've never tried it myself, and that's creating splatter effects on your pages with a toothbrush. Right now, when I create splatter effects on my coloring pages, what I do is load up a paintbrush with some gouache or watercolor paint and then tap that brush to create splatters on the page. It's not a bad technique, but it can be a little bit of a hit or miss for me because the consistency of the medium on the paintbrush really does make a massive difference, and sometimes I can't get it looking as messy as I'm going for. So I'm hoping a toothbrush might solve these issues. Things are definitely about to get messy. So before we actually get into splattering with a toothbrush, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here because I have never tried doing a watercolor galaxy before. Feel free to skip ahead to the actual hack if you're not interested in this, but I thought it might be slightly entertaining for you to see me try a watercolor galaxy for the first time. Okay, so this is actually looking really cool. I don't know if it looks like a galaxy per se, but I like the effect regardless. Okay, now I've got a very old toothbrush here. I'll douse this with some white gouache, and then I'm going to use this kind of movement here to see how that goes. Okay, so this effect was really fun. It definitely creates that more messy splatter effect that I was speaking about earlier that I was going for, so I'm really happy with that. It does get very messy, so make sure you're doing it on a surface that you don't care that it gets messy, or put down some protective sheets. I went ahead afterwards and just did some little white Posca paint details. You can see some little shooting stars here, some normal stars as well. I'll definitely be using a toothbrush to splatter my paint in the future. And now I'm gonna go cut this down and turn it into a bookmark because I think it's really cute. We've made it to the final official hack of this video, but definitely make sure you stick around to the end because I might have some bonus hacks in store for you. But this last hack, I very highly doubt it's going to work. The idea is to scribble some water-based markers onto a plastic sheet and then transfer the plastic sheet onto another page or coloring page in this instance, and this will create a watercolor background effect. Like I said, I really doubt this is going to work, but I do have an alternate option to try if all goes to poop. Okay, so what I've got here, I've got a plastic sheet. I've got some canvas paper, and I've also got some water-based markers. And what I'm going to do is try the water-based markers first, apply them onto the plastic sheet, and then apply that to the paper, or rather, I think I'll transfer the paper onto the plastic sheet. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to try watercolors instead. So let's see what happens. Okay, so I don't know about you, but that did not work at all. Perhaps it's the water-based markers that I'm using. I mean, it is kind of a cool effect, but it was not what I was going for whatsoever. Let's try using some watercolors instead. Okay, so this one was slightly more successful than the one up here, but it isn't exactly what I was looking for. I was expecting like large splodges of, you know, watercolor paint, watercolor marker. I don't hate the effect though. I think it could look really cool on a coloring page. So if I was going to use this on a coloring page, what I would do is mask off the foreground of the page first. Then I would apply this onto the page, the plastic sheet, let it dry, and then you can remove the masking fluid, masking tape, whatever you use to mask off the foreground. Because I think if you did play with this technique a little bit, it could be really fun. So that's how everything turned out. Some successes, some fails, and some that I'm definitely going to revisit again. Now let's get into the bonus hacks. These were ones sent in by my subscribers and Instagram followers that I really loved but just didn't get the chance to do in this video, but I thought they were too cool not to share. So the first bonus hack is using odorless mineral spirits to blend oil pastel. I love this idea. If you saw my recent oil pastel video, I tested out a few different ways to blend out oil pastels, and I think odorless mineral spirits would be a really great option to try, and I think could possibly help set the oil pastel in place as well. So I need to get my hands on some odorless mineral spirits and try this hack out immediately. The second one is from my coloring friend here on YouTube and Instagram, Imogen from Coloring Kid. She uses fine liners to create texture as well as basing and extra details in her coloring pages. I really need to try using fine liners more in my coloring pages. I've seen some great results from people. Number 3 is more of an organization hack that I'm absolutely obsessed with, and that is to have a working pencil case. Whenever you're working with a bunch of pencils and you need to travel somewhere with them, get yourself a working pencil case so you don't have to keep putting the pencils back into, you know, your big pencil case and then struggle to relocate them. Get a little working pencil case and you'll know all your colors are in there, and then you don't have to honk around your massive 150 set of Prismacolors, for example. The fourth bonus hack is one that I've actually shown before on my channel in this alcohol marker textures and patterns video, where you use the same colored alcohol marker on top of your base layer to create the shadows in your alcohol marker pages. Such a great hack. And the fifth bonus hack is for creating gradients and highlights in your colored pencil work. You start with a white underlayer and then glaze over the top with your other colors. I generally do this with my lighting effects. I will always do a base of yellow, but I've never tried doing a white underlayer, so that's something I'll have to try in the future. But there you have it, team. Those are my thoughts and opinions on these 10 unusual art hacks. Let me know in the comments which of these hacks you're planning to try in the future, and if there are any other hacks you think I should try in a part 2 of this video. In the meantime, happy coloring, friends. Have a good day, have a good life, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!